Story 1, The Window Knocker, Arcadia, Florida. The knock came at 3:17 a.m. 3 slow taps against the bedroom window, even though I lived on the second floor. I was staying at my grandfather's house in Arcadia, Florida after he passed, helping my mom sort through his things. The place sat on the edge of an orange grove surrounded by old cattle fencing and whispering pine. The air out there at night is thick, full of buzzing insects and ghost stories passed down from the old-timers. On my third night, I stayed up watching TV, trying not to feel creeped out by the taxidermy eyes watching me from every corner. When I finally went to bed, I left the window cracked to let in some air. That's when I heard it knock, knock. Knock. Not frantic, almost polite. My heart thumped. I pulled the curtain back, expecting a bird, a tree branch, anything. Nothing, just the dark, empty yard and the crooked outline of the grove under the moonlight. But there, right in the center of the glass, were 3 wet fingerprints, long, narrow, like they'd been dipped in river mud. I wiped them off and closed the window tight. The next night, same time, the knocking came again, louder this time. I jumped out of bed and ran to the porch, hoping to catch someone playing a prank. But the gate was locked and the motion lights didn't flicker once. I told my mom, who went pale and said, "Did you open the window after sundown?" I nodded. She made me sit down and told me a story I'd never heard. When she was little, a local boy had drowned in the Peace River. His body was never found. Kids used to say he knocked on windows at night asking to be let in so he could dry off. They called him Mud Boy. He only came to homes with open windows. The next night, I duct-taped the frame shut, but it didn't matter. At 3:17 a.m., the knocking came from my closet. I froze. No footsteps, no creaking. Just 3 knocks and then silence. When I opened it, all I found was a puddle, thick brown water pooled around my shoes. That morning, the orange grove behind the house had a new marking, 3 muddy handprints on the back fence chest height. Like someone had stood there waiting. Story 2, The Visitor Under the Bleachers, Elko, Nevada. It started with a dare one I should have walked away from. I was 17, working part-time, cleaning the Elko High School gym during summer break, mostly sweeping bleachers and mopping floors. The place was dead silent after 9 p.m., just the buzzing of old fluorescent lights and the occasional echo from the metal roof. One night while stacking chairs, my co-worker Todd told me a rumor: don't stay past midnight. That's when the girl crawls out. I laughed it off, assuming he was trying to freak out the new guy. He told me a cheerleader had died during a practice in 1986, impaled by a broken railing under the south side bleachers. Nobody could get her out for hours. Since then, people said you could hear nails tapping and someone whispering. 5, 6, 7, 8 if you were there too late. Of course, I didn't believe it until the night I had to lock up alone. Around 12:10 a.m., I was rolling up extension cords when I heard it soft counting rhythmic coming from under the bleachers. I turned off the vacuum and froze. 5, 6, 7. The 8th count was a low growl like someone inhaling through grit teeth. I shined my flashlight through the cracks, nothing. I crouched and peered under, expecting maybe a raccoon or some kid hiding. What I saw still lives in my bones. A girl in a tattered red and white uniform, upside down, crawling along the ceiling of the underside like a spider. Her limbs were stiff, broken-looking, and her mouth was wide open like she was stuck mid-scream. Her hair dragged along the floor and left a wet streak. I fell back, slammed my head, and everything went black. I woke up in the locker room, bleeding from the nose. No idea how I got there. The custodian found me, said I was screaming 888 over and over. I quit that week. Months later, I drove past the school one night and saw movement in the empty gym lights flickering under the bleachers. I swear I heard her counting again. 5, 6. I floored it. Never looked back. Son. Story 3: The motel room that wasn't on the map. Flagstaff, Arizona. There's a stretch of I-40 outside Flagstaff where your phone signal dies. The lights from town vanish, and all that's left is the sound of your own tires chewing asphalt. I'd been driving cross-country after a bad breakup, trying to clear my head. And by 2:00 a.m., I was beyond exhausted. I pulled off at an unmarked exit I didn't remember seeing on the map. Just a faded sign. Stay a while. Vacancy. The motel sat alone in a clearing, pale yellow bulbs flickering under a metal awning. There were no cars in the lot, but the office sign was lit. I went in and rang the bell. A man appeared, skin sallow, shirt too tight, voice whispery like someone who hadn't spoken aloud in years. He handed me a rusty key and said, "Room 6. Don't leave it unlocked." I didn't even sign anything. The room smelled like mildew and bleach, and the bedspread looked decades old. But I was too tired to care. I crawled in fully clothed, not even pulling back the sheets. Just before drifting off, I heard it click. The door. I'd locked it, hadn't I? I sat up, heart hammering. Then came footsteps. Slow, right outside the window. I peeked through the curtain. Nothing. But as I turned away, I saw something in the mirror. Someone standing behind me. I spun around, empty. The bed was untouched, my bag was gone, panic took over. I bolted out into the night barefoot and ran to the office, but it was boarded shut. No light, no desk, just dust and cobwebs. I screamed into the dark. Nothing. I ran to the lot, my car was gone. I stumbled to the road and walked until sunrise, eventually flagged down by a trucker. When I told him where I stayed, he turned pale, said that motel burned down in 1997. Gas leak. All 6 guests dead. They never rebuilt. I begged him to drive me back. He refused. Said people who go looking for that place twice don't come back the second time. And he's right. Because no matter how many maps I check, no matter what GPS I use, I've never found that exit again. But sometimes when I sleep, I hear that doorknob click, and something breathes just behind me. Use Story 4, The Static Man, outside Springfield, Missouri. If you've ever driven Highway 125 through the Ozark foothills at night, you'll know it's the kind of place where the dark feels thick, like it has weight. In October 2022, I was delivering radio equipment to a relay station near Bull Shoals Lake, and my GPS rerouted me down a detour after a rock slide. Around 1:40 a.m., I lost the signal completely. No service, no map, just empty hills and a low, endless static buzzing from the radio in my passenger seat. It shouldn't have been on. I hadn't even plugged it in. I pulled over to check and the buzzing grew louder. Then in the rearview mirror, I saw someone walking toward the truck from the tree line. I blinked. Gone. Just shadows. I brushed it off and kept driving. 5 minutes later, I saw the same figure again, tall, pale, dressed in a funeral suit, standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes, but there was no one there. I passed the spot slowly and felt the temperature drop at least 20 degrees. My breath fogged the glass. That's when the radio screamed, not music, not static, a voice. "Turn it off." I yanked the plug, but the radio kept going. "Turn it off, turn it off." The truck died. Lights out, engine dead. Then came the scratching from inside the cab, from under the passenger seat. I reached for my flashlight and pointed it down. A hand, pale rotted with long fingernails clutching the seat rail. I jumped out and ran no direction, just away. After 10 minutes of sprinting, I realized the road behind me was gone. No pavement, no sign of the truck, just trees. Then the static returned louder, wrapping around me. I turned in circles, heart pounding, until I saw him again, the man in the suit, standing upside down, hanging from a tree branch, his mouth split wide open, bleeding static into the woods. I fainted. When I woke, it was dawn. I was lying on the hood of my truck, parked perfectly at a gas station 30 miles from where I'd been. No damage, no dirt. The radio was off. But inside the glove box, there was a Polaroid. I'd never seen me sleeping in the truck, with the static man standing behind the windshield, smiling. No one believes me. But sometimes when I drive at night, my radio buzzes to life, and I don't touch it. Story 5, The Crying Thing in Room 309, Asheville, North Carolina. There's something about old hotels that carries weight, not just history, but memory. I was staying at the Belmont Inn in Asheville during a solo hiking trip in March 2021, just looking for a quiet place near the trails. It was a foggy Wednesday night when I checked in, barely anyone else there, just an older woman behind the desk and a maintenance guy with a limp. They gave me room 309, top floor corner unit. I asked for an extra blanket, and the woman gave me a strange look. "There should already be 2, she said, but handed me one anyway, then added, "If you hear crying, don't open the door, just turn on the hallway light." I thought it was weird, maybe a joke. That night, after a long hike, I crashed early. Around 2:58 a.m., I woke up to the sound of someone crying, deep rattling sobs just outside my door. At first, I thought it might be another guest, but the Belmont had maybe 5 cars in the lot. I got up, cracked the curtain, empty hallway. But the crying didn't stop. It got louder, closer, almost inhuman, like a person trying to remember how to sob. I turned on the lamp, still crying. I peeked through the peephole and saw nothing. Then 3 knocks, sharp. I backed away, heart in my throat. Then I remembered what the woman said. I reached for the hallway switch just beside the door. The moment I flipped it, the crying stopped instantly. Not faded, just cut off. Like a file paused. The hallway light buzzed, and I pressed my face to the peephole again. Now I could see something. A figure maybe 5 feet tall in a stained hospital gown, facing away from the door. Its arms dangled too low, fingers touching the floor. Then its neck turned, not its body, just the neck bending 180 degrees until its eyes locked onto mine. I couldn't breathe. I fell backward, scrambling into the corner of the room. The crying started again, but now it was coming from the ceiling. I didn't sleep. I didn't move until dawn.